Crazy. Some rap stuff. That's a double, Stevie. That's a double entendre.
And we're about to be live.
I'm just using big words, guys.
On Instagram.
On Instagram, there is a delay.
It makes me work for it, Steve. It makes me log in twice. So nice, you have to do it twice.
Whatever.
And we are live, Stevie. What's going on?
What is going on, guys? Today is Tech Tuesday. Today we're going to be talking about body wear, but not on shock bodies. We are going to be talking about the wear that happens on pivot points, suspension related. So whether that be A-arms, trailing arms, anything like that. But in order to do that, we got to go over to Ernie, Mitchie, and George Hamill.
Special guest
in the house.
What's up, guys?
What's going on, Georgie?
What are you up to today, George?
Just searching for tacos, that's it.
The side-by-side stuff is like a side game. Tacos is always number one.
Priority number one,
yep.
That is right.
Favorite taco joint around here? Dude, I don't know. You guys have to show me so I can go search for them.
Damn, we should have took them. You should have gone to the we just went with us to Carlos Obese, dude. Silos Obese.
Today I'm actually stoked because I'm going to learn some stuff from you guys on wear and tear on side-by-sides.
Perfect.
Yeah,
so cool. Yeah, Chase. We got this car kind of torn apart just to show you guys some things, more so to look for than anything, making sure that all your stuff stays tight, nothing's falling apart, nothing's falling off. You know what happens.
Falling off.
Big thing, like if you start losing all of your arm bushings, whether it's the lower arm or the upper arm, all that stuff is replaceable. So it does wear out, it does get sloppy, it does, make some noise, it does cause some issues. So being aware of that stuff, knowing what to look for on that stuff, and knowing where it is actually at on the car is important. Arm joints and bushings are just one thing. You got ball joints, you got wheel bearings, you got axles, you got shock mounts, you got racks, you got sway bar links, you got sway bar bushings, tons of moving parts on the front end and the rear side of these cars as well. Gonna kind of just point out some things that you can look for and help or put on, I guess, if you will, to help prevent some of that issue as well. So Polaris, I would say, is a little bit better. I'm not going to try and be biased by any means, but Can-Am typically has more options for gusseting front end of their cars, rear end of their cars versus a Polaris car. So what would you guys say the number one thing that we see on Polaris as far as something that would go bad or maybe deteriorate as far as a bushing is concerned? I would say wheel bearings.
I'd say probably wheel or hub side.
Hub bearings.
Yeah. Hub bearings more than anything.
And definitely radius rods.
Radius rods too.
Radius rods go pretty quick.
So a trick you can do for wheel bearing stuff is basically jack the car up just to where the tire's like a ½ inch off the ground. You can sometimes just feel it in the wheel itself, or you can get like a breaker bar underneath the tire. That'll tell you if it's either wheel bearing or ball joint at the same time. But guys, just checking this stuff and making sure that all that is tight and where it needs to be is going to help you in the future to kind of pinpoint maybe something that is wrong if you're hearing a noise or if something feels loose or anything like that. Knowing where the stuff is at, knowing how to check it is going to help you kind of pinpoint that area. So that's a little trick to do that. If all that stuff is tight, I mean, you can move on. It's kind of like a pre-checklist, if you will. I'm just rambling here at this point, but if you're going for like a oil change service, you're maybe just pulling the car in to go over everything. All this stuff on the front end, it's always good to look at just to verify that, hey, that one looks really weird. Let me check that out. Let me wiggle some things around. Let me see if anything's loose, if a bolt's not tight or anything like that. So,
dude, one of the things that we always get is like at camp, like if you're at the dunes, we always make fun of people when they're like, oh, you got a squeaky car. And it usually comes from those bushings, right?
Absolutely.
Like worn out bushings or not greased Zerk fittings, something like that.
And the problem is, like most factory stuff, it doesn't come with Zerk fittings, so you can't actually grease it. But I believe aftermarket arms and stuff like that sometimes have a greaser on the top of them to where you can actually hit it with some grease. But yeah, squeaking front ends, all that stuff, I mean, it can come from a lot of different places. So being able to look at that and pinpoint it can help.
Mitchie, what do joints cause in the seat as far as negatives? So if you have bad A-arms, pivot points, stuff like that, how are you going to feel that in the suspension itself?
I'd say you probably feel it through the wheel first and foremost. Really easy way to say is like, if you're driving it like a week before and it feels tight, and then all of a sudden something's starting to come loose, or the steering wheel feels a little different, or you're getting some feedback into it, that would be a good time to maybe jack the front of the car up, kind of wiggle some things around, see if you can really pinpoint exactly where it's coming from. As far as feeling it anywhere else other than that, I mean, the steering wheel is going to be like your best
just
friend
slow
at
to
that point.
mid-speed aggressiveness.
Yeah.
You know, you could get that out of it for sure. It's pretty important to know that basically everything chassis from the chassis out is a wearable item.
Yeah.
You can look at it that way at any moment. So anything with a bushing, anything with a bolt, I mean, all the way down to brake pads. We're all talking about wearable items. So just things to pay attention to. With us here, when we pull your shocks off your car and we do, whether we're doing a spring kit or valving, even ride heights, the guys are always wiggling stuff. They're always checking stuff out. As a matter of fact, yesterday we had that X3 that was super, super loose.
Yeah.
And you can get a tremendous amount of play out of that stuff. But it's nice to know because we will get guys sometimes that'll bring cars and be like, hey, you know, all this is going on. And we'll do our full kit, we'll do a bunch of stuff, but it doesn't always fix the loose parts too. So it's super important when you're swapping tires, maybe you're going from sand tires to dirt tires, or maybe it's just after a big long trip, jack stuff up, look at it, wiggle it around. You never know. You absolutely never know.
So yeah, and again with that too, so like if you do bring your car to us, all that stuff gets noted, so when you come to pick it up, we let you guys know about that too. Hey, we found this, we noticed this, maybe look into it, check it out. It's gonna help, you know, the overall feel of the car, the lifespan of the car, if you will. Kind of a safety thing too. You don't want to be driving around with loose bushings or stuff that's about to fall off your car, so a pre-check on all that, a quality check on bushings and hardware and all that stuff is super, super important. So
here's a good question. Does having a wider offset wheel cause more wear? And what is our take on offset? So absolutely. Having a wider offset, absolutely, because you change your leverage point. So when you start moving the wheel and tire away from the hub, you're adding all that leverage to every point, starting with the bearing, going into the ball joints, all the way into all the pivot points. It also changes and affects the way the shock works too. So absolutely, that was CJ.
Check
what's
out.
our-
So
what's
running
our-
loose is not good.
no, definitely not.
No.
What's our opinion on the offset? What are we looking for offset stuff?
So
'Cause that's
our
a big
opinion on
question.
offset on a Polaris would always be as close to stock as possible. So the offset on the front of the car is completely related to the design of the spindle that they do when they actually create the geometry in the car. So as you go wider offset, you change all of that. You're going to get more feel in the wheel. The car's going to want to push through braking and corners. It's a lot of people think that, you know, the wider offset you go, you start adding stability to the car. I would say in a very low speed scenario that could be true. But I'll tell you, just personal experience for me, driving a car with a big offset is more dangerous. The car is very wondery. It's like it's on glass, if you will. So I definitely recommend, we run a 401, so that's a 401 offset. 5.2 is good for Polaris. I believe the factory offset, it's a 7-inch wheel on the front, and it's basically like a 5.1.
So I think it is 5.
Or a 6-inch wheel on the front and a 7-inch in the rear. It's like a 5.1, so.
As close to factory as possible.
Close to factory as possible would be best, absolutely. And you're not going to prematurely wear parts, so it's super important.
What you got, Chase?
We got a undisclosed viewer. Tube, you are so sexy. That same viewer wants to know, what does a loose arm bushing look like?
So I did tell him to stand by. So we are let's go to the shop, maybe jack up a front of a car or two, and show them by moving the wheel, see if we can see any movement in the A-arm in itself.
Sure. We got the Can-Am over here too, so we can show you guys.
Yeah, this one's jacked up. We can probably wiggle this one around.
Yep. So go over to this one real quick first, Chase.
All right, we got a full shop today. And I think it's because George is in town, but we got the greatest car of all time, the YXZ, standing loud and proud here. Right in the middle
George's
of a Can-Am, Polaris, Yamaha, and another Can-Am. And looks like Zach's going to town on this thing. Zach might have found some blemishes
Did he?
on this.
So if you come over here, Chase.
This actually has a TMW kit in it, which is badass.
Yep.
That's the one they have.
So actually we'll show you guys a better close-up on the other car over there, the shop car, but basically this guy's probably already been through this. He's probably already had bushings fail on his arm. You can see he's got the grease zerks on top there, but he also has a TMW gusset kit for the whole front end of this car. So super important on that side of it as far as having all that stuff put in there. One, it strengthens the frame points, it strengthens the frame itself. It keeps you from wallering out the holes on the frame side too. Because at that point, whenever you tighten a bolt, you're never ever going to get it tight. It's always going to be moving if it's, you know, if it's hollowed out. So, but this one actually, there's a little bit of rack movement, but feels pretty tight for the most part. So, I mean, guys, it's as easy as this. You jack the car up, you do something like this with the tire, you can actually watch all of your pivot points from your arm mount to the frame, lower arm, this one in the back, and then all the way on the bottom of the frame too. You can also see your sway bar bushings. Just by doing this little movement, you can see all of that stuff. So,
and then if you want to check the wheel bearing, you do it the top and front,
go
bottom,
up and down on the tire versus side to side. So that can help you guys pinpoint a lot of issues that you might be feeling or may not even know about, for one. And
the wheel offset is pretty good on this one too, with those
Very
nice
good,
KMC grenades.
Yep.
Shameless plug.
So this customer has actually done a lot of the things that we're going to talk about. So he's got your shock tower brace, which is important, right?
Yep.
TMW makes this as well. He's got the bracing for all of the gusset kit. He did do this kit here that we offer. This saves the arm with the front link kit. This spud that goes in here saves the arm from wanting to tear apart. And then he even has, on the factory arm, he's got a gusset on the factory lower arm here that is trying to keep this portion of it, which is susceptible to bending, straight. So he's got a lot of gusseting in the front of this car from factory.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, definitely.
That thing will stay strong for a long time. But let's go over to here. Let's show a little bit close up.
So prepare for the future. That way you don't have to deal with it in the trails.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, we got a pretty sweet RS1 here. Tons of fun. George, we got all your cars in here today.
This RS1's getting IQS today.
Yeah.
Wicked.
With some RC deuces.
RC2 IQS, yep.
So that's your shock tower brace. That's basically going to take, you know, the mounting point from the front side of the shock, if you will, all the way down to the frame, kind of push all that together. And then Chase, if you get real close into there, you can actually see that gusset kit for the arm mounting locations. Yeah. Just by doing that, I would say you would gain a significant amount of life expectancy out of the car just on front end part failure. Feeling anything like that. If things start moving around, you're going to start losing the bushings, you're going to start losing a lot of that stuff.
Since Ernie added the gold springs and they look so tight, does that add a little bit of horsepower and longevity?
Definitely
as well?
horsepower.
Yep.
It's kind of like stickers. Every sticker you add horsepower. So
looks good.
Gold is definitely horsepower.
So like for instance on my car here, driving this car brand new, 0 miles, it had crazy clunks and crazy noise in the front of the car. Just by adding this TMW gusset kit, it just trued everything up and got rid of so much noise in the chassis, big time. So it's super important stuff for sure. I didn't do this early enough, which is their shock tower brace, and there's a ton of shock tower braces out there. So, and ended up cracking the frame up here, so you can see this welded in gusset that we had to put in there. If I had done this early enough, I probably wouldn't even had to have done that. So preventative is definitely huge.
Ernie, what was your first 3 fundamental front end suspension changes other than the shock bodies that you did for this car?
Fundamental?
Fundamental. I tried.
Suspension changes.
As far as the front end, what were your first 3 biggest changes to the front end that you did?
Okay, so when I got the car, I did Lone Star right away. So we did that right away. We've had test racks in this car as far as, you know, a little bit different than what we supply right now. I guess I'm kind of all over the place with your question, but first fundamental things would definitely be running the TMW support kit, the gusset kit,
Sway bar
arms,
links.
sway bar links,
Yeah.
you know, all over the place. My car's a little bit of a mutt. You know, we use it for a lot of testing and tuning and training on some stuff too. So
A mutt or a guinea pig, Ernie? One of the two.
I would say a guinea pig. You're right. You're right, Chase. I'll give you credit.
Hey, since you did all that stuff to your car, maybe you can give us a little bit of understanding and tell me what the difference between the shocks and suspension actually is.
The difference between shocks and suspension.
Or maybe Mitch would be a good person to ask.
So, like you're talking arms versus what a shock
Well,
is?
I'm mostly talking about the terminology because I always get people asking me, oh, I need to change my suspension, and they say that because they think it's the shocks.
Okay. We do get a lot of people that say they're going to do their shocks. They're referencing springs, right?
Yep.
So we get a lot of people that because the springs factory, especially on the early stuff, just wasn't enough, especially when you start accessorizing it. So we get a lot of people that'll be like, hey, I got to switch out my shocks, and what they're trying to mean is springs,
right,
on that sense. But
So I'd say like suspension side of it would be all of your arms,
yeah,
trailing
all your
arms,
pivot
radius
points,
rods,
yeah,
stuff like that. As far
Absolutely.
as the shocks are concerned, I mean, I guess that would be your difference there. So they can go hand in hand, I guess, if you want to, you know, mate your shock setup to your suspension kit.
Right.
As far like if you have stock travel or long travel, I mean, there could be a difference there, but
A lot of people wonder why we're making race racks all the time. It's part of the suspension, people.
It is. Have a little bit of an issue, a little bit of play in your rack. You can clean it up with a shock therapy race rack.
No plug. Or shameless plug.
shameless plug.
Shameless
One or
plug.
two.
If we're talking wear and tear, Ernie's got beefier axles on this thing too.
Yeah, what kind of axles are those?
RCVs.
RCVs.
Yeah, we definitely run RCVs on most all of our stuff.
Usually they're orange, right?
Right. But that clashes with my hair, so we decided not to do that.
They're orange on the inside.
Less orange.
What's the usual wear and tear on the axles then? How would you look at that? Because you talked about wheel bearings, but there's also like the CV joints and stuff inside as well.
That's a good question. So I never ran stock axles on this car, so I don't know what stock CVs and axles will do. Pretty damn impressive, though, I will say that. I would say you're kind of all over the place depending on whether you're a sand guy only, or a dirt guy only, or a sand and dirt guy.
Yeah,
I
the
think
sand guy's
dirt-
going to have to grease and clean his a lot more.
Yeah, I almost feel like the dirt guy gets a little bit more wear for all the chatter and stuff like that
Got
too.
it.
So I don't have a definitive answer for that.
Ernie, after how many miles do I need to grease the bushings?
Another good question. That's a
I'd
really
call it
good
a
question.
service point. I mean,
Yeah.
like for me, anytime I'm like gonna do an oil change or like just pull the car into the garage, or like, hey, maybe you're bored one night and you're like, man, I'm looking for something to do. Like that's something that you guys can always do. But
Just
every oil
Yeah.
change. I mean, what do you guys do oil
Yeah,
change?
I think it's
So
smart. Yeah, definitely.
You can
And
like
if you hear
I
a
said
squeak, it
before.
needs to be lubed.
Yeah. Like I said before, creating like your own checklist, maybe hang it in the garage or whatever, like, hey, oil change. Okay, now I'm gonna look at, you know, front end plate or bushing wear or greasing everything. You can kind of run down that list. What's up, Chase?
I got a special live one here. I
Did he
wasn't
finally give birth?
gonna take anybody live today, but we got the man, the myth, the guy who got his birthday stolen. Matt Burke, what's going on, man? Where are you at? Why are you not at work? And what happened yesterday? Take us through the motions.
I'm taking a couple hours being at home.
Couple hours?
Maybe you're still at the hospital. We got to the hospital yesterday on my birthday about 3:30 in the morning, and he decided to show up about 10:19 last night.
Wow, that's awesome.
How much sleep did you get, Matt?
I've gotten a couple hours.
Good job, man. You're doing good.
The coolest part about that is they get to celebrate their birthdays together.
Yeah, right.
Woo!
I don't know
Bonus
if you guys,
birthday.
I don't know if you guys agree, but this caller is boring.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's-
Belly not leave.
The belly didn't leave when the baby was born, Steve. All right, Matt. Well, you have a good one, man. Congratulations.
Congrats and happy birthday, dude.
We'll see you next week. Hopefully the baby doesn't roll over as much as you do. Got him.
Let's do,
All right,
let's
you
do a
guys.
rapid fire real quick on questions, and then we can probably get back to it.
Okay, so Sherman May, what do you guys do with all the stock parts you take off?
As far as springs, I would say, because that's typical, or like sway bars and stuff, we usually give that stuff back to the customer. If the customer does not want that, we will recycle a lot of it. There's some times where we've made some cool tables or some artwork out of some springs or some old sway bars, but we try and give that stuff back to you guys. It's your stuff at the end of the day, so it typically goes back in the car and goes back to you.
Most of the stuff that we keep is shock in a box people, because they don't want to pay to ship that stuff independently back.
That
So
too, yep.
our recycle bin gets pretty full weekly, and it's a big bin.
Every 2 weeks it gets picked up.
Every 2 weeks it gets picked up. But yeah, we've done some cool stuff with some of it. Made some artwork. So.
Yep.
I got
got
one
Chase?
from Richard Jeffries. He just wanted to say, Mitchie and Steve, he wants to light you guys on fire, or he's saying you guys are fire. I don't, one of the two.
Thanks, RJ. Love you, buddy.
Thanks, buddy.
And Ernie is rocking it today from
Oh, God.
Mr. Sparkles. Oh, yeah.
Also, too, Matt's belly is going nowhere, and I couldn't agree with you more. All right? It's got nowhere.
All right, you guys. Well, before we kick us off, George, what are you going to do with the rest of your day?
Search for tacos, like I said at the beginning of the day, and go mountain biking, show you guys a new e-bike. I wanted to say thanks to RJ for chiming in, though, too, because we just had a show with him last night at his facility, and he talks about a lot of stuff, especially the good partnership that he has with Shock Therapy. So it was good to hear that business relationship.
He's another great hookup to have when you're looking at taking all these precautions on your car. He's the man to go to. All right, Steve, I think it is that time.
All right, guys. Well, if you're looking to buy anything from us, please visit our website, www.shocktherapyusa.com, or call in at 623-217-4959.
All right, we'll see you guys on Thursday for Throw It Out There. Have your questions ready. Free shirts.